Toki Pona is a constructed language published in 2001 by Sonja Lang. The language itself is small in pretty much every aspect, yet its community has become the largest of all conlangs made in the 21st century. It's currently the second most popular conlang behind Esperanto by most metrics, and is surpassing it among younger generations. Toki Pona is a highly minimalist language designed to break complex subjects down into their essential components. It's accessible, easy to learn for the most part, and almost every aspect is designed to let speakers express themselves in any way they choose. This video is meant to act less as an introduction to Toki Pona, and more so serve as a detailed overview of each part of the language. I'd normally start by talking about its sounds, but with Toki Pona in particular, I feel some background is necessary first. Sonja Lang started to work on the conlang while she was struggling with depression, as a personal art project and a form of self-therapy. Toki Pona served as a means to focus her thoughts on the important aspects of life, and acted as a fun linguistic toy to play with. It was meant to be a personal language, but after Sonja Lang shared it online in 2001, other people became interested and wanted to learn it, forming a whole community. Sonja would later publish the book Toki Pona, The Language of Good in 2014, which laid out the complete foundation of the language. It was followed in 2021 by the Toki Pona Dictionary, showing the ways a sample of Toki Pona speakers translate English words into Toki Pona and vice versa, as well as acknowledging dozens of new words created by the community. And most recently, an official Toki Pona adaptation of The Wizard of Oz was released in 2024, and an updated edition of the original book is slated to be released in late 2025. There is no official word count of Toki Pona, but the average speaker uses between 120 and 140 words. Yet in spite of the tiny word count, Toki Pona is still capable of expressing the meanings of tens of thousands of words in other languages. Each Toki Pona word conveys a wide variety of related meanings. Take Toki, which can mean talk, say, speak, communication, language, speech, among other things, and Pona, which can mean good, positive, useful, peace, and anything else the speaker personally deems as good. Meanings not conveyed by Toki Pona root words individually can be expressed by compounding roots in whichever way the speaker sees fit. For example, I would personally use pokilete, which literally means cold box, to mean refrigerator, but other people could use other combinations for this word too, such as ilolete, which means cold appliance. I would say tomopi sikelete, meaning building of a cold circle for ice skating rink, but others could just as easily say tomolete musi, sikelete musi, or any other way they personally conceptualize an ice skating rink. These are by no means one-to-one definitions, and lexicalizing these words or phrases as if they are fixed expressions that need to be memorized is heavily discouraged. Speakers are actively encouraged to conceptualize words as their fundamental parts, and play with expressing them however they personally desire. For the reader or listener, they can typically determine the meaning from context, or at least the general gist of what the speaker is trying to say. Combinations of words can have multiple possible meanings, varying by the speaker. For example, ren noka, literally meaning foot clothing or leg clothing, could mean shoes, socks, boots, pants, jeans, skirts, or any other piece of clothing worn on that area of the body. If context alone isn't enough, listeners can simply ask for clarification, or the speaker could say additional sentences or add one or two more words to give the necessary context. The language isn't limited to talking about things vaguely either. After years and years of speaking Toki Pona, there are skilled users who can convey detailed information concisely, including highly technical topics, so long as they understand what the terms mean at their fundamental core, instead of mindlessly parroting buzzwords. Toki Pona lacks any formality registers, and sentences can be considered to be polite by default. Toki Pona, as described in Toki Pona, The Language of Good, or lipu for short, is how Sonja Lang used the language, at least back in 2014, but almost the entire language is open to variation from its many speakers. After teaching the fundamentals, the book makes a direct call to the reader. Now the rest depends on you. Go enjoy yourself. Create, play, and be Pona. Also, as a side note, Sonja Lang's name in Toki Pona is Yan Sonja, and that's how I'll be referring to her for the rest of this video. With that ironically long intro out of the way, let's talk about the sounds of Toki Pona. There are only 5 vowels, a, e, I, o, u, and 9 consonants, ma, na, pa, ta, ka, sa, ya, wa, and la. These sounds are typically pronounced as their IPA symbols, but they can all be pronounced in a wide variety of ways if necessary. For example, native Arabic speakers would probably struggle to pronounce pa exactly since that sound doesn't exist in Arabic, but they could easily substitute it for ba. And native English speakers are allowed to substitute e and o for a and o if they need to. The syllable structure is quite restrictive, requiring exactly 1 consonant and 1 vowel, unless it's at the beginning of the word, in which case it could start with just a vowel, with an optional nasal coda n after vowels. Other consonants can't go at the end of syllables, n isn't allowed to cluster with other nasals, vowels aren't allowed to go next to each other within a word, and syllables starting with wu, wo, yi, or ti are invalid. These restrictions result in only 92 valid Toki Pona syllables, but make it so that every Toki Pona word is easy for practically anyone from any language background from around the world to pronounce. A lot of speakers assimilate the nasal coda with following consonants, such as pronouncing it m before p, and others pronounce consecutive vowels between words with a glottal stop in the middle, but both of these processes are optional. All Toki Pona words, foreign or not, should be stressed on the very first syllable, like in Finnish. The Latin orthography of Toki Pona is incredibly simple. Each phoneme is written exactly as it would be in the IPA, and Toki Pona words are never capitalized, not even at the beginning of sentences. The exception is foreign non-Toki Pona words, which in addition to being made to conform to the sounds and syllable structure, also have the first letter capitalized. There are many other ways of writing Toki Pona too. The main alternate way is sitelen Pona, a logography made specifically for Toki Pona, with symbols for each individual word. And for stylistic purposes, these can be combined to form other characters representing multiple words, like in the Toki Pona logo. There's also sitelen, also called sitelen sui, another more ornate community-made logography which is very Pona, and every other major pre-existing writing system can be used to write Toki Pona as well. Toki Pona also has a sign language adaptation called Lukapona, created in 2020, which shares most of the vocabulary but has a completely different grammatical structure, in alignment with the linguistics of sign languages. The only part of Toki Pona that's not very open to variation is its grammar and syntax, which are still simple regardless. The syntax is exclusively head initial, with subject, verb, object, word order, nouns going before adjectives, verbs coming before adverbs, and with prepositions instead of postpositions. Most Toki Pona words can be used either as a noun, verb, adjective, or adverb, and there's a handful of particles to help determine which part of speech a given word is. There's also valid analyses of Toki Pona grammar that say word classes do not exist in the language, but instead function as given parts of speech would in given parts of the sentence. The particle li separates the subject from the predicate of the sentence, in simpler terms, separating the initial noun phrase from the rest of the sentence, though it's omitted when the first and second person pronouns mi and sina are used alone as subjects. The particle e is placed before direct objects, separating them from the verb phrase. These particles can be used more than once in a sentence to convey the meaning of and, with li being used for multiple verbs, e for multiple objects, and the special particle en for multiple subjects. The particle la separates context from the rest of the clause, most often to form constructions that function as conditional if statements, convey the meaning of thus or so, or use words as adverbs. O can be used as a particle calling out to people when placed after nouns, a particle for commands when placed before verbs, and can even express wishes or desires. In noun phrases with two words, the second word modifies the first one as an adjective, while in noun phrases with three words, the last word describes the first two. The particle p makes it so that the first noun is modified by the last two words, removing ambiguity. There are 5 main prepositions: ron meaning in, at, on, or with, tawa meaning to, towards, or for, tan meaning from or because of, sama meaning like or as, and kepeken which means using. A handful of verbs can be used as preverbs, or auxiliary verbs in more linguistic terms, including kama, ken, wile, awen, sona, lukin, and alasa. Some aspects of Toki Pona grammar are actually quite similar to Tokpisin grammar, with the particles li and e both having direct equivalents in Tokpisin, those being e and the suffix im. Finally, let's talk about the vocabulary of Toki Pona. Almost all words in Toki Pona come from existing languages, such as Georgian, Finnish, and even some obscure ones like Mandarin Chinese and English. There are even words coming from other conlangs, mostly Esperanto, but there's one word, lupa, that comes from Lojban. All the words from source languages are changed to fit Toki Pona phonology, with Dutch hagedis, meaning lizard, turning into akasi, Tokpisin bokis, meaning box, turning into poki, and Georgian tsheli, meaning hot, turning into seli. Many optional additional words coined by the Toki Pona community, or nimi as they're called, also come from natural languages, like yasima from Turkish yansıtmak. Many of these nimi were coined as jokes, but genuine or not, a lot of them fall out of use, and many are now obscure. Non-Toki Pona words must come after a noun describing them, called head nouns, such as ma preceding the names of countries and cities, and toki coming before the names of all languages. There is a list of language and place names in lipu, but it's merely a list of suggestions, and the policy is to use what is preferred by the community that the name refers to. For example, lipu lists ma wensa for Sweden, but nowadays most Swedes speaking Toki Pona use ma sensa instead. But individual Swedes are also free to use other names if they want. Names for people also follow this rule, mostly using yan meaning person as the noun describing them, which is why when stumbling into a Toki Pona community, you'll see hordes and hordes of yans. Speakers can use other nouns to describe themselves too, such as soeli, waso, kala, akesi, which is the one I use, and any other noun of the language can be used too. For counting, there are numbers 1 and 2 for, well, 1 and 2, among other meanings, but besides that, mute meaning many is encouraged to be used for any number above 2. For specific numbers, luka meaning hand or arm is used for 5, mute for 20, and ale meaning all for 100. And these numbers are repeated to make other numbers, like tutu for 4, lukatu for 7, lukatutu for 9, and so on. For values greater than 100, the numbers can optionally be placed before ale to avoid having to repeat ale for a comically long time, under an extension called nasin nampapona. Tu ale can be 200, mute luka ale is 2500, 1 ale is 10,000, and mute lukatu 1 ale is 48,000. Anyways, let's talk about some more fun vocabulary before wrapping this video up. Kipisi, mayuna, and misikeke were words coined by Jan Sonja before lipu came out and fell into obscurity, but have since been revived and are now used by a sizable percentage of Toki Pona speakers. Speaking of lipu, the lipu there means any flat object, but in that context means book, and pu is a special word meaning interacting with the book Toki Pona, The Language of Good by Sonja Lang. There's also ku, which means interacting with the book Toki Pona Dictionary 2021 by Sonja Lang. So the entire book can be referred to as lipu for short. There are a few monosyllabic words that are defined as word reserved for future use by Sonja Lang, those being yu, lu, nu, and u. Su used to be one of these words, but now means interacting with a book from the illustrated storybook series that began with The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, produced by Sonja Lang. The main word count often given for Toki Pona used to be 120, which is the number of words featured in lipu, excluding kin, oko, and namako, which were listed as variants of other words. Any words created before lipu came out in 2014 are called pripu, while any words created afterwards are called postpu. There are some people that choose to use only the 120 words in lipu, but most of the community uses more. In lipu, dozens of these words were acknowledged, and of them 17 were deemed frequently used enough at the time to be listed separately, for a total of 137 major dictionary words. But again, most speakers don't use exactly 137 words, and word usage trends have changed since 2021. The most infamous of these has to be Kekan San, used to refer to any mustaloid, but usually refers to raccoons, and this word has become an icon of the Toki Pona community. There's even a satirical numbering system based on it, which I was advised to take out of the script. The word mu is used to describe any sound an animal makes, but in this sense, because animals in works of art, and parrots in real life can say words from languages spoken by humans, technically mu can mean literally anything, no matter how long or short, so long as an animal is saying it, as elegantly displayed by lipu, translating an entire paragraph from the Quran said by a hupu as just the word mu. On that note, Toki Pona is a really cool conlang and I like it a lot. I could go on for longer, but this video is getting somewhat suli, and that wouldn't be very Pona. If you want to learn more about Toki Pona, some good resources to check out are learning courses such as Lipu Sona pi Toki Pona, Yang Kekan San's video lessons, and Irotani's Toki Pona in 18 minutes video. Nasin Toki Pona describes the grammar in detail. There's a cheat sheet by Yan Sa, with the grammar on one page and vocabulary on the other, and both lipamanka's semantic dictionary and Lipu Linku are good dictionaries to use. All of these resources and more are featured on tokipona.org, which is also a very cool site and you should visit it. And the 3 official Toki Pona books are very much worth reading. Thank you to my Patreon supporters Furoist, Dope Kid, Andrew Brown, Rosetta Stevens, Sunder, Erica Sim, Adam Drinek, Kekidion, Tautamera, Luke Jensen, Alexis Esquedes, Vadim, and Carol Soul. And until next time, mitawa!